Hey Evil Dead fans, we're going to work on the stencil for the top piece. Now I'm going to just center this on this side and it'll kind of give you a guideline for the other side. So what you want to do is you get a piece of construction paper and you want to lay down this top piece and you want to trace it out all the way down to this edge here, all the way around over here. Sorry it's black on black, but it should be okay. So now we have this line. Now where there was gaps, you want to connect those gaps. So that's what we have so far. Now let's put this back down. Let's get this lined up just right. Okay. Now, this part right here, where this little slope is, that's your center point for your slope. That's what you want. Now, when you want to measure how big your top's going to be, you want to take your cuff and you want to sit it in there like this. You definitely want to have both parts together. So the other part's going to be connected by the bolt right here, which I don't have the body bolts for it at the moment. I had to prop it together. So what I did is I take a piece of paper, construction paper, and line it up across the body. Then I measure up this gap here. Now I measure just under 1 inch. So what I did is I went exactly 1 inch, because when you do stencils to metal, they get a little bigger. Now this cuff is cut out just a little under 3 inches, and that's what I want. I want it definitely cut to where this line was, this part of the body was cut out. And I'm going to have a nice thick cuff on here to cover this up. And we'll get to that later when we do the actual cuff. So, now that we have the center line here. Now, where this comes down, right here, is where that edge of the top is going to come. Now, from that edge, from this, actually this edge right here, before it slopes, you want to measure out 1 inch. And I've already made my stencil, so this is just a quick guideline for you guys. And on this one, you want to measure out 1 inch. Now this is the Ash vs. Evil Dead one. So the slope's going to be a lot more severe versus an Evil Dead 2 one. Now you can go with the like a yardstick or a ruler to make a straight cut or a straight drawing or line here, and then you can slope it out later. But from this edge here, we're just going to come out a little bit more with just a little bit of a higher line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of connect those. Now from there, oops. It's kind of tough doing it one-handed, so bear with me. Here. Now you see we got it's kind of straight right there. Now you can go back over it and kind of slope it up a little bit, then slope it back down. You don't want a whole lot on this end, because when you transfer it to the metal, to put your stencil over the metal, it's actually going to be bigger once you trace it out. So you don't want a whole bunch on this end. You could actually make it pointy on this stencil end, because when you put it on the metal, when you trace something out, it gets bigger. You don't want to have a whole lot on it. Now what I do is I just draw on tabs on the top. Usually here and here. That's going to fold over. You're going to bend those over and fold it over when you actually install the actual top piece to these sides. Now what I do is I come down here. Sometimes I run it all the way through just to make sure I have extra. And you definitely want to have a tab on here so we can close that end piece. So when I'm done with that, I cut it all out. Then I transfer it onto a metal piece. I do that. I cut all that out. You can use a die grinder, or if you have a thin enough metal, you can use tin snips. It's a lot easier with tin snips. And you want to do the same thing with this other side. It's a little harder because you can't just sit it down to do it. It just has to take a little more time. Now, when you do your top, the top piece, you want to measure out end to end. Definitely where this cut is here. And you might want to put the other piece on this other end to here. So it's going to be from here to where this end piece, this other side, is going to be. That's what you want to measure out. Because this top's going to cover from here, right here, to right here, all the way across. Once you have that measured out, this was my original stencil for it. I measured out how far it's going to fold over the top, just to get a nice guideline when I do install the sides together with it. So what I did is I just put this line here, and you have to measure that out. I don't know exactly where you're going to put it, but what I do is I put mine right above this line right here, all evenly all the way across. Like I said, I like to keep mine all the way across, because that's exactly how they did that from Ash vs. Evil Dead. And I always leave a little extra on the back. Notice I haven't put my round cut for my cuff down yet. And the reason for that is I want a little extra just to make sure I have enough metal for it. I don't want to cut too much off right away, because you can always work your way down. That's what I do. I work from the top all the way down to make sure I have enough metal for it. And we'll work on that bend later. Now, once you get the two sides cut into the metal, and when you do the stencil, definitely put them together to make sure the hump runs together correctly and the length is correct. Once you've done that with the stencil, then put it on metal, cut them out, and then do the same thing. Put them together and make sure that they have the same lines. Because if not, you're going to have some lopsided turd and it's going to suck. And you don't want that. Now, right now, I have my top resting. And I don't use bolts or nuts or anything like that to put the top with the sides. All I use is really good Gorilla Glue. Now, you can say, well, glue's not going to hold together. Horseshit, it's going to happen. It's going to work, because when you're finally done with everything, there's going to be more compound on it holding all the joints together, but also you're going to have the two bolt holes up here. You're going to have the bolt for the top and the bolt from the handle holding to the cuff. So you're going to have plenty of support to make sure it doesn't break loose. So that's really how you do it, and you've got to have a lot of time, a lot of patience. And you can see right here, I don't have all my lines here. They kind of wore off. But this right here is probably going to be hacked off right here. I just always want to make sure I have more metal on it when I actually start putting it together, because I can always cut more off later. And this is probably be cut off more here. And this is the left side of it. And this is the right side of it. I'll give you another little view of the right side. And like I said, I always work from the front to the back. You don't want to do it all at once. If you can get the front level together from the sides, when it comes to the back, it's going to be a lot easier. So you always want to work from the front to the back. Don't rush this process. Take your time, get your measurements correct, and don't cut off more right away. You can always cut more off later. Make sure you have just a little bit more left. Now, this is just a rough drawing of one of the sides. Now, this one it's been beat up because I've already used it. This was for the other side. Of course, this was ripped off because I tape it all down to the metal when I trace it on the metal to make sure I don't have it flopping back and forth or pinching up on me. And just to let you know, this little back piece that's going to fold in, we're going to cut a lot off of that for the wrist, but we want to make sure we have that, because the top's going to come over top of this little flap, and we're going to cut off enough just so it sits in and sticks to the back, and then we're going to put those two pieces together so you have a solid back piece to where nothing's going to show through. There's not going to be any daylight. There's not going to be a gap. So just keep this big piece right here. We're going to cut that off later once we start forming the back. But if you have any questions on any of these things I do on how to make them, I do make them a little difficult. Some other people do too, but when they're done, the outcome is it's just so worth it. One thing I do wish I would have done different, I did put the two supports up here up and down. I wish I would have spaced this one down just a little bit more, but all in all, it's going to be okay. Oh, and also, I don't know if I covered this, I did fill in this piece right here. What I did is use a hard compound for molding, and it turns rock hard. So just any kind of a compound that you can actually get at a hobby store. You don't have to go to an automotive store to get something like this, or a hardware store. You can go to like a Hobby Lobby. And this was actually milliput. You don't want to use Bondo when you do fill-ins like that. They will do a cover, Bondo will, but you don't want to use that because you want stuff like a milliput that actually makes a good structure. And it's hard as a rock. So be very sparingly when you actually do little fill-ins like that. But the next video I'm going to talk about filling in this piece right here. Until then, you guys have a great day.